Out in the open tonight, the shocking amount of black-on-black violent crime in the U.S. It is something we rarely hear about. Back to our Out in the Open panel now. Amy Holmes, Republican political strategist, CNN contributor Roland Martin, and Air America radio host Rachel Maddow. As a black man, when you hear that 93% of black murder victims are killed by other blacks, do you think that blacks are their own worst victims?
Yes, and they are doing the work of the Klan. That's exactly what's going on here. And let me deal with this with Reverend Sharpton's comment for a second. So let me take the CNN contributor hat off for a moment. I've been the editor of 3 black newspapers, the editor of a black website, commentator for a black cable network, and I've also been the editor of a black magazine. And I have not covered a single rally where 50,000 African Americans were protesting on black crime. See, when you talk about protesting against police brutality, that's an easy one. That's an institutional system there where you have white officers, black victim, let's protest. African Americans must stand up and be accountable. And on my radio show on WVON, every time somebody black gets killed, we talk about it, and I say, when is enough enough? They are doing the work of the Klan, and they might as well own up to it. This is worse than what happened with lynching.
Why are you so upset with what Sharpton had to say?
Well, because you're shifting the blame. Again, I want to see...
And that's when he placed the focus on
yeah,
police brutality.
Now, he is correct that there are community leaders out there on a small scale who are doing what they're doing. But again, I want to know, where are they in terms of calling for those marches, calling for mass mobilization to cut the crime in black neighborhoods? Stop saying, well, the media doesn't cover it. No, most of them don't do it. Right, if you have 50,000 black folks marching against black on black crime, trust me, the media will be there.
So why aren't they? Is it the embarrassment, the humiliation?
I think it's a number of factors, and first I want to tell you, it's so good to hear you talking about this out in the open, and I think there has been a conspiracy of silence around this. There's fear, obviously, of sort of airing the dirty laundry. Remember when Bill Cosby, gave a very candid speech, and he was jumped all over by black leaders, saying that you shouldn't be telling white America what's going on in our communities. But we can't solve the problem if we don't identify it in the first place, and that's what Roland is talking about here. I think it also plays on this sense of white guilt, that white, reporters and journalists are much more comfortable reporting on what they consider civil rights cases than what's going on in the inner city with black on black crime.
How did Al Sharpton become the bad guy in this story? Al Sharpton is not saying, I'm in favor of black-on-black violence, or I don't see a problem with it. What he's being taken to task for is organizing against stuff that isn't that too. I mean, this doesn't make me any less mad about Sean Bell and being shot in New York City. I mean, this is not a situation where it's a zero sum of outrage that we all have to get some out of.
It's called what is equal. And as somebody who has worked in the black press for more years than I worked in mainstream, it offends me when African Americans will get angry at police brutality and not equally angry at black on black crime. Trust me, there is no difference. Somebody is dead. And so the criticism is not in terms of Sharpton protesting police brutality. What I'm saying is, what is the value of a black life? Is the value of a black life greater when a cop takes it, or is the value of a black life greater when somebody else, African American, takes it? They have to stand up and say enough is enough. And so you have to have the anger, but not just that. Say, how are we going to deal with it? Are we going to go into the communities and say, hey, if you don't want to snitch, turn them in. Turn your cousin in. Turn Pookie, turn Junebug in, who killed somebody else, because they deserve their butts to be in jail, as opposed to simply just passing it by and letting it go on.
Why are so many black men killing each other?
Well, we know that there is high crime rates in urban communities, and then that crime is focused on the people who live there. So if you had high crime rates in a white community, it'd be white on white crime. I think what we're talking about is moving towards solutions, and one of the solutions that was very decried over and over by the black community was the Bush administration's attempt at faith-based outreach. And we know from studies, James Q. Wilson at UCLA showed that a community faith-based outreach, starting from the first families moving up, is another way to tackle this.
Making churches part of the government is not getting at the problem here.
And not only that, in the black community, we got lots of churches, but what we have is weak leadership. That's where it all begins. You have to challenge people at the heart. So what I want to see is National Action Network, Rainbow Push, National Urban League. Where are our black relief funds when it comes to turning people in terms of putting up rewards? Don't just have corporate America do it. Say, hey, $1,000, turn this person in because we want to stop the crime. That's where it has to start.
Why would you be giving more power to these national organizations
because
that are ignoring the problem, rather than local?
Forget the power. I want them to stop the crime, and if that is a way to do it, then go ahead and start it. Stop talking about it and say, raise the money, let's stop it. But enough of all this stuff criticizing them. Let's end it now.
Roland Martin, Rachel Maddow, Amy Holmes, thank you all.